Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and I'm back with another 40k video from Warhammer. And the topic for today's video is Top 5 Unique Tyranids Explained. I'm really sticking to the Tyranid theme. Not complaining, I enjoy hearing about the Tyranids. But I gotta mix it up a little bit. I gotta find some other stuff to check out, which actually brings me to a very interesting point. I don't know if you guys have seen Major Kill's recent video. He posted it yesterday at the time I'm recording this video, talking about the, I guess, struggles and hardships of being a 40k lore channel, just because of the, I don't want to say lack of content, but the lack of content coming from Games Workshop, you know, to feed the lore channel engine. Because like he was saying, like, what do you do once you cover all the big major events? You know, you cover the Horus Heresy, the War in Heavens, you know, Eye of Terror, the, you know, First Tyrannic War, you cover the Emperor, you cover the Space Marine Legions, the Chaos Space Marine Legions. Then what? You know, you covered all the major stuff. There's not much else, you know, unless something big happens, you know, like the return of the lion. The lion has, you know, awakened. Cool, now you can make like a whole bunch of videos. What is the lion going to do when he wakes up? How will he react to the Imperium? How will he interact with Gilliman? Will he reunite the Fallen? And then of course you got that book and everything like that, and you know, talking about like his fight with Angron and stuff like that. You can do a video on that. Then what? You know, you covered all the major stuff. Now you gotta wait until Games Workshop does like another book saying, you know, giving off some more recent lore to make videos. But until then, there's really nothing to go on. Like, this was a snippet from Major Kill's video talking about like the struggles of just being a lore channel.
He has also hit the hardest part about the 40k lore grind. What content do you make when you've already covered the Space Marine Legions, the Emperor, Chaos, all the big shit that people will always click on? This is an issue that a lot of channels have, as they actually have to get really creative. Half the effort is coming up with good ideas when you've already made hundreds of videos. You can tell Wes is struggling in the ideas department.
Yeah, see, so I can only imagine the struggles, which is why I could never be just a 40k lore channel. I wouldn't know what to do videos on. You know what I mean? I can only imagine how challenging it is. But I will say I do enjoy the videos he does make, you know, because he does cover the dark, the mysterious, the unsolved, the unexplained. You know, and I enjoy those type of videos. But yeah, I can only imagine how hard it is to be a 40k lore channel. Man, struggle's got to be real. But yeah, anyways, here we are with the top 5 unique Tyranids. It's going to be interesting to see what those are. Now, in one of my previous videos, I asked, would you guys be interested if Games Workshop came up with a new Tyranid character? Think of it something like Kerrigan from StarCraft, which is kind of human Zerg mixed, but you know, she can also speak and stuff like that, kind of like a Zerg. I mean, yes, she is the leader of the Zerg, but like a Tyranid representative that can kind of speak, kind of like a Mouth of Sauron type of character, you know, a character that can speak for the hive mind. You know, would you be interested in something like that? You know, because then you could have a Tyranid character interacting with other, you know, heroes and characters and stuff like that. And you know, oh, the hive mind will consume you, you think your Imperium is safe and stuff like that. You know, just having an argument with like Gilliman or something like that. Would you be interested in something like that, or would you just rather continue having just this, you know, swarm, you know, this no mind swarm, just does whatever the hive mind says, and that's it? Let me know. Alright, so anyways, let's get on to the video and see what the top 5 unique Tyranids are. Here we go.
By the end of this video, you're going to know everything you need to know about 5 of the most horrifying Tyranid monsters that have ever existed, and creatures of terrifying destructive potential. many of which being seen as the peak of Tyranid evolution, whereas others were one-off freak mutations. Now, whatever the case may be, each of them was incredibly deadly, and led campaigns of panic, paranoia, and unrelenting destruction that left mountains of bodies and trails of carnage in their wake. Now, many of these monsters would unfortunately fall into the realm of obscurity for many years, in-universe and out, showing up to unleash untold havoc before vanishing without a trace in the lore, and then seemingly disappearing from the 40k rulebooks as well. Now, thankfully, around the time of 8th edition coming out, many of these characters would end up making a return, and we've even gotten a few new ones in recent times. Today, we're going to be talking about a Tyranid assassin that took a perverse delight in terrorizing its victims, an unstoppable juggernaut that can heal from almost any injury, and a particular winged parasitic monster that kills its prey in the most potentially disturbing way possible. We're going to be getting into that and a whole lot more, but first a quick shout out to this week's sponsor, and then we're going to dive headfirst into the grimdark. If you've been watching my channel for a while, then you know I'm a huge fan of
really know, and even then I don't know much about it.
Company that makes all these awesome graphics tees you see in all my videos. They've been a huge supporter of my channel for a really long time, and I absolutely love their products. Their shirts are super
part of me kind of thinks that like a
not to mention the fact that
Sarah Kerrigan type of Tyranid character would be kind of interesting and add something
I'm a huge fan of
something more to the Tyranids, because then you can write stories and stuff about them. You know what I mean? From like their perspective.
That t-shirt looks way too cool.
It's his, hers perspective, what type of character they would make.
Because that could not be farther from the truth.
Another dimension, if you would.
Actually super affordable, as you can get a bundle of 3 graphics tees for only $60. Or if you want something just as comfortable but not as flashy, then you can get a bundle of 3 of their basic tees for only $49.95, which is a great deal on its own. But if you use my link in the description of this video, or use the code WESHAMMER at checkout, you can save an additional 10% off your entire order. Into the AM is running their Spring into Savings sale right now, with site-wide deals between 20 and 80% off. And the best thing is, my discount code stacks with those deals, saving you even more money on some amazing t-shirts. So go check out intotheam.com today and pick out something awesome. You can thank me later. Big thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring this video. I spoke briefly on the Tyranid lictors in one of my recent videos, and I called them one of the most disturbing characters that have ever existed in the 40k lore.
Yeah, they are pretty creepy. I want to talk
about one lictor in particular, one that takes all of their alien cunning and ruthless efficiency up to a completely different level. A named lictor that is not only the ultimate assassin, but one that, horrifyingly enough, seemed to delight in the terror that it inflicted. The Death Leaper was a lictor of such profound lethality that to the spiritual people of St. Caspelin was believed to be a demon that had been sent to punish them for their sins. At first, the people of this world didn't even realize something was wrong. A disappearance here, someone not showing up for their shift there, something that definitely raised a few eyebrows, but within the Imperium was not necessarily out of the ordinary. That was until the bodies started showing up. The damage inflicted on each was severe, jagged lacerations that looked more as if they had been done by some form of animal than any blade. There was seemingly no pattern that could be discerned amongst all of the victims. They came from every different walk of life. Now, the only thing that tied them all together was a puncture wound in their skull and a brain cavity that had been completely hollowed out. Fear and terror of the unknown and unseen enemy spread like wildfire through the missionary world, the rumors and stories growing more extreme as the body count began to pile higher and higher. If there had only been something physical that people could point to, a specific pattern of attack, a weapon left behind at the scene of the crime, footprints, anything that could have tied the murders to the realm of the physical, perhaps the madness induced by the killings could have been contained. However, the Death Leaper left nothing behind. It had been honed over countless millennia, an apex predator, the galaxy's ultimate assassin. And this thing was no mindless hitman, far from it. Any lictor could have served that purpose. The Death Leaper was hyper-intelligent. Its role was to break an entire world single-handedly by sowing dismay and fear throughout the population.
Wow, that's impressive.
The most obvious target of such a religious planet would have been the High Cardinal, the spiritual leader of the world. The Death Leaper realized that such an assassination would only serve to create a martyr, and thus would have caused the population to bury themselves deeper in their faith and steal their resolve against its attacks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Instead, the Death Leaper infiltrated the Cardinal's cathedral bunker and one by one slaughtered each of his advisors before descending upon his bodyguard. Until this point, the Death Leaper had been absolutely meticulous with each of its murders, making sure to leave no trace,
and that any remains would be found in very specific locations at specific times. This,
Specific
by comparison,
times?
was
Wow.
a massacre. The Death Leaper hacked and slaughtered its way through the bunker, leaving behind a trail of mutilated bodies and gore-drenched pathways. It wanted them to see what it was. It wanted them to see what it could do. It was a creature that took a form of sickening delight in the terrified screams of its prey. After
This
all
thing's
this
kind of
time,
impressive.
it was finally able to unleash its full potential of millennia upon millennia of evolution, specifically designed for murder. Like a predator toying with a mouse, it chose to leave and repeat this process for 10 days. The personnel of the bunker drawing themselves deeper inside, behind thicker and thicker barricades. It was of no use. Each and every time the monstrosity would return, it picked apart the Cardinal's defenses with frightening ease. When it was all said
the
and
fact
done,
that something
only
that
the
big can
Cardinal
do something
remained.
like that?
The Death Leaper presented itself before him, stained red with the blood of the Cardinal's most faithful servants. However, the Death Leaper spared the Cardinal. It left him there, surrounded by the eviscerated bodies of all those that had sworn to protect him. It
Oh,
was
that's
sending
messed
a
up.
message that no matter where the Cardinal went, no matter how many walls he tried to put between him and the
He
Death
could get to
Leaper,
him.
no matter who he employed to protect him, at any moment, it could have him eliminated. There was no escape.
Oh, that is scary.
This knowledge fractured the Cardinal's sanity. The daily broadcast he had always given to comfort the population of this world became more frantic and panic-stricken. Every day that passed without another appearance of the Death Leaper pushed him further down a twisted path of paranoia and madness. That madness came to infect each and every word the Cardinal spoke, and through his sermons, so too
And
were
that
the
was probably
minds,
its
hearts,
plan.
and souls of all those who recited
Pretty
on
smart.
St. Casplan. It took only 7 days for the morale of the entire planet to be completely broken. And with that,
Wow.
the Hive fleet descended upon the world and devoured its entire population. They barely fired a single shot in defiance of the invaders. The Death Leaper's reign of terror would carry out in a similar
Hive
manner
mind's no
across
joke.
scores of worlds throughout the galaxy. Similar creatures have been documented being utilized by multiple different Hive fleets. Now, whether or not the Death Leaper is a unique and singular organism, or just an incredibly rare strain of Lictor, has yet to be determined.
Every distinct Tyranid life form is designed with a very
That is pretty
specific
impressive.
battlefield role in mind. Now, whether they be creatures made for espionage, assassination, a swarm-based infantry, or they may even be psychic powerhouses, none perhaps embody the concept of raw brutality quite as well as the Carnifex. The most straightforward
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Tyranids' constantly evolving methods of warfare. They are armored behemoths, living wrecking balls that smash apart anything and everything that gets in
Yeah,
their way.
like their tank.
There is, however, one Carnifex in particular that is actually worshipped by a gene stealer cult known as the Behemoid Undercult, an
Oh,
entity
wow.
known as Old One-Eye. They see him as the physical incarnation of their Xenos god, the Behemoth. And the people of this cult take their worship of Old One-Eye very seriously, often carving out their own right eye to pay homage to the Great Destroyer.
Ugh.
The first documented sighting of the creature known as Old One-Eye was on the Ultramarines-controlled world of Calth. Hive Fleet Behemoth had descended upon the planet, and leading the charge was a monstrous Carnifex that stomped through the defenders, swatting aside guardsmen and Leman Russ battle tanks with relative ease. The Carnifex
Wow.
was an absolute wrecking ball, a mountain of corded muscle and crushing claws that plowed through anything and everything the Imperial defenders could throw at it. What made this particular Carnifex so terrifying was that it seemed to be able to regenerate itself from just about any injury, no matter how devastating. Its pockmarked armor and tattered muscle fibers stitched themselves together faster than the enemy could damage it. This seemingly
Jeez.
indestructible killing machine surely would have spelled Calth's doom if it hadn't been for a single well-placed plasma shot by a long-forgotten hero of the Imperium. The burst of energy exploded against the Carnifex's face, punctured its right eye, and unloaded its explosive payload directly into its armored skull, bringing the
wow.
monster's rampage to a sudden and unexpected halt and an explosion of gore.
So I wonder why
now,
that
this
one
should have
went
been
through.
where Old One-Eye's story ended. However, decades later, a gang of smugglers would come across the behemoth's corpse, frozen in Calth's ice caps. The specimen was remarkably well preserved, and such a find would surely herald a ridiculously high price from the biologist orders of the Mechanicum who would wish to study it. They would end up carefully carving it out of the ice, taking
and then
extra
you
care
thawed it
not to
out
inflict
and-
any unnecessary damage. After they got it out, they would bring it back to their base in order to de-thaw it. Unfortunately for the smugglers, they had no idea what they had actually found. Once the
No,
majority of the
no.
ice had been melted away, Old One-Eye awoke once more. Its grievous injuries began to instantly stitch themselves back together. It awoke with a primal urge to kill, a biological need for violence. At this
Just
point in
couldn't
time,
leave
the
well
High
enough
Fleet's
alone,
invasion
huh?
had long since come to an end, so there were no synaptic creatures in range in which to give Old One-Eye direction. It reverted into a feral monstrosity that once more began a brutal campaign of slaughter, this time driven not by the alien intelligence of the hive mind, but instead only its primitive yet unrelenting prey drive.
So I wonder why that
primordial
plasma
need for
shot
carnage. It left none of the smugglers
did it,
alive.
it
After
didn't
breaking
heal
free
that
from the
shot.
base, it would set off across the frozen wastes in search of more prey. Bands of smaller Tyranid lifeforms such as Gaunts that had been left behind by the Hive Fleet flocked to its presence. Old One-Eye was not a synapse creature. It didn't issue any form of command, but still, these lesser organisms, perhaps in a similar manner to how many of the pack-based predators of Old Earth organized into hierarchies, could sense that Old One-Eye was a powerful alpha leader. All across the planet, habdomes were smashed
stick
apart,
together
and
and
entire
follow the
populations
big
were
one.
massacred by the Carnifex and his frenzied primal swarm. Eventually, Sergeant Talion of the Ultramarines, a veteran of the First Tyrannic War, would answer Cal's call for aid. Although he was a master tracker, he had no need of utilizing his incredible skill base, as the destruction left by the beast was far from subtle. When him and his men eventually cornered it, they quickly
think it
found
went
that the
this
blades
way.
and bolters they had brought with them
Pile
were
of
worthless
bodies and
against
blood
its
everywhere.
armored carapace. Enraged by the attack, the beast used its massive claws to smash the attackers into nothing more than red smears against the ice. History has a tendency to repeat itself, and the only thing that managed to bring down Old One-Eye was a 1 in a million shot that found purchase in the ruined eye socket of the mighty Carnifex, a scarred ruin of a wound that was the only part of its body that it was unable to regenerate. The
So I
Carnifex
wonder
howled
why
in
everything
pain
else can
and
regenerate
tumbled
except for
over
that
a ravine
one
to its believed
spot.
end. Even though the sergeant and the assisting teams of personnel from Calv searched for its body for weeks, Old One-Eye's remains were never located. Creatures matching the beast's description have been reported dozens of times over the years, emerging to wreak untold havoc before eventually being put down in a similar manner by a bold hero. Perhaps this is nothing more than the monster's legend spreading across the stars, each telling of the story having subtle variations. Or perhaps the beast yet lives. If this is the case, then Old One-Eye has been killed and subsequently regenerated dozens of times. Most recently, a monster matching the description of the Beast of Calth was documented on the world of Tartaros during the invasion of Hive Fleet Leviathan. If it truly was Old One-Eye, then how it managed to escape Calth still remains a mystery.
Yeah,
One
it's
thing
true.
is certain, however, wherever it appears,
How would it
carnage
get
and
off that
slaughter
planet?
will inevitably follow.
When it comes to Tyranid-named characters, most of them take the form of hyper-specialized variants of existing documented Tyranid species. Individuality and names are an alien concept to the Swarm. Thus, when applied to specific Tyranids in the lore, is more of a way for humanity to categorize entities of similar caliber. However, there have been times when we have seen some particularly dangerous Tyranid offshoots that seem to be a one-and-done situation. Experiments by the Norn Queens to test different potential mutations that,
the Norn
if proven
Queen.
effective, will be implemented in future breeds, or if found wanting, will be completely abandoned. There was one such aberration
The hell is
that
that
was
model?
an offshoot of the Tyranid species known
Old
as a Ravener.
school.
It was nicknamed the Red Terror, and its subterranean assaults terrified an entire population before disappearing without a trace.
Although we still don't know the exact nature of the Red Terror, it seems to be a mutant strain of Tyranid Ravener, as it bears remarkable similarities to the aforementioned species. Its patterns and colors indicate that it was part of Hive Fleet Kraken, and mysteriously, its first documented sighting was 2 years before Hive Fleet Kraken would come to invade the galaxy. For 20 solar days, it ran a campaign of terror throughout the tunnels of the mining world of Devlin Primus. Its first attack was on one of the planet's starports, where it would end up tunneling right through the rockcrete as if it were made of wet paper, plunging into the Imperial defenses and slaughtering 24 men and women before it eventually retreated into the mining tunnels from which it had emerged. Having never
Jesus,
encountered
that's
such a
terrifying.
fearsome creature before, and believing that a second attack was an absolute
Just
certainty,
imagine seeing
a
something
search
like
and
that.
destroy team was sent deep into the mines. If they weren't able to locate and kill it, then it would certainly claim more victims. However, the group would meet a similar fate, as the entity would burst from the tunnel walls, slashing and tearing at the team with its massive scything talons. There were only a handful of survivors, but in their panicked retelling of the events, they spoke of a creature with a carapace the color of blood, that had a maw so massive it could swallow an Imperial light vehicle whole. Due to the nature of its attacks
So
and the
this thing
seemingly
was on
shattered
the
minds
planet
of the
before
survivors,
Hive
the
Fleet
accounts all
even
varied from one another. Some
came
claimed the
in.
creature was as large as a Trigon, while others said that it was no larger than any ordinary Ravener. Whatever the case may be, this would be the only time the monster would leave any survivors, and thus these fragmented stories are all we have to go on. What happened to the Red Terror after these attacks is still unknown. There was never another reported sighting of it. However, sometime later, Devlin would be invaded by Hive Fleet Kraken. This was the battle that famously saw the Lamenters chapter of the Blood Angels valiantly sacrifice themselves, staying behind to die until every last ship of fleeing refugees had been loaded. One of the ships that had been used to ferry the survivors to safety, however, would sometime later make an automated landing at a place known as Adri's Hope. Now, all attempts to hail the ship were met with nothing but an ominous silence. And after a few days of the ship just sitting there, with no survivors coming forth, a team was dispatched to investigate. And what they found on board resembled an abattoir of gore. There were no survivors, and no indication of what had happened.
It was on the ship.
3 weeks later, Audrey's Hope would become nothing but blood-drenched ruins. Whether or not the Red Terror was responsible has yet to be determined, and what ultimately happened to the creature still remains a mystery.
Well, that's the story goes.
Now, it's no question that the Tyranids are one of the greatest threats the galaxy has ever faced. Not only are they a swarm without limits, but they're also hyper-intelligent and coordinated. But one of their greatest strengths is potentially their ability to rapidly evolve and overcome any problem they may encounter. And the next creature we're going to talk about really exemplifies this philosophy, as it was birthed when the Tyranids encountered a problem they couldn't just smash their way through. And the solution came in the form of a winged parasite that killed its victims in a particularly horrifying way.
Parasite of Mortrix.
The Parasite of Mortrix is a bizarre winged Tyranid bioform that was said to have come about through the experiments of one of the Norn Queens of Hive Fleet Kraken. Now, this thing's name is derived from two separate parts, Parasite being the way in which it hunts its prey, and Mortrax being the world in which it was first discovered. Not only is it covered in multiple clawed arms with which to rip and slash apart its prey, but the most terrifying weapon it is equipped with is a barbed tail that contains a hollow tube. The creature will impale its victim and pump them full of parasitic embryos of Tyranid rippers. Once injected into the target's bloodstream, the rippers will rapidly mature and devour the host from the inside out, before eventually bursting forth as a fully formed, voracious swarm that will then spread across the battlefield, attacking anything and everything in sight.
That is disturbing.
The battle where the parasite was first discovered took place on the Imperial Fortress world of Mortrix. And whereas in the previous story, the Death Leaper's cunning was able to break a planet single-handedly, that couldn't be further from the case here. This was one of the most heavily defended planets within the Segmentum Ultima. The Imperials, for the most part, were holding off Hive Fleet Kraken. Even though the Tyranid bioforms descended upon them in voracious hordes, they were not able to penetrate the Imperial defenses. That was until a, at the time unknown, winged lifeform was documented flying just above one of the planet's largest fortresses. Without warning, its direction changed, and it descended upon the walls in a swooping dive. With lightning-quick speed, it plunged into the ranks of guardsmen that had been stationed on the fortress walls, stabbing each and every one of them with almost imperceivably fast strikes from its tail. It moved like a blur, lashing out and impaling dozens of guardsmen each second. In the wake of its attack, the soldiers began to burst apart in a shower of viscera and gore, as thousands of rippers exploded out of each and every one of them. It took only 2 weeks for the entire planet to be overrun by an inconceivably vast, ravenous tide of rippers. This is the only time the parasite has been documented, and like all of the Tyranids' experimental life forms,
really cool.
It remains to be seen if the Norn Queens will judge its efforts sufficient enough to fold its particular mutations into the rest of their gene stock.
That's a really cool paint job.
Either way, this entity shows just how horrifying the Tyranids truly are. They encountered a problem, walls and garrisons that couldn't be breached, and with just a little bit of malicious ingenuity, the Parasite of Mortrix was birthed, and subsequently drowned the world in rippers.
Jeez.
One of the most deadly life forms within the species known as Tyranids is that of the Hive Tyrant. Synaptic creatures that act like generals upon the battlefield, directing the lesser Tyranid organisms in coordinated attack patterns. They act kind of like a conduit with which the hive mind can enforce its will over all of the Tyranids. Now, even amongst a species as deadly as Hive Tyrants, there is one in particular that stands apart from the rest as an absolute apex killing machine. Now, I of course am speaking of the Swarmlord, but to call the Swarmlord just a named Hive Tyrant doesn't even remotely come close to doing this thing justice.
Really?
As threatening as the Hive Tyrants are, the Swarmlord is as close to a Hive Tyrant as a Hive Tyrant is to just any run-of-the-mill Gaunt. This is the guy that Tyranids deploy when they're absolutely done messing around.
Really?
The Swarmlord is potentially billions of years old. It's said to be as old as the Tyranid race itself, and due to its ability to be reabsorbed and subsequently rebirthed across space and time, a veteran general of countless battles. It is the ultimate life form, the galaxy's apex predator.
I thought it was just another
very
form of just a hive
Tyranid
tyrant.
evolution. The Swarmlord is a legendary destroyer of worlds, a killer of entire species, and perhaps the most intelligent, cunning, and deadly creature to have ever prowled the stars. It has led a seemingly never-ending campaign of carnage and slaughter across the galaxy. It was responsible for the scouring of the Meteor system, the extinction of the Breenar species, and the consumption of the entire Orc Wa known as Gorgluk. These are but a few of its legendary blood-soaked deeds. Now, despite the fact that the Swarmlord has seemingly been killed multiple times in the past, with each and every demise, its consciousness is reabsorbed into the web of the hive mind, taking with it all of its knowledge and experience before being reborn when the swarm has need of its skills once more. It has reappeared to lead every single Tyranid hive fleet at one point or another, and with every rebirth, it emerges from the spawning pools stronger and more deadly than ever before. Despite how deadly and effective the Swarmlord is, and mysteriously, the Tyranids deploy it only seldomly, doing so only when they encounter a particularly stubborn enemy that refuses to yield before the swarm's superiority. It is in these instances that the Swarmlord is birthed once more, to bring death to the stubborn lesser organisms that have so offended the hive mind. It's almost as if the emergence of the Swarmlord is similar to a biological stress response in the bodies of organic creatures. Each time it's reborn, it does so with the exact purpose of outthinking and outmaneuvering the foe. To this end, it seems as if the Swarmlord has more autonomy than any other Tyranid bioform to date, and combining the infinite knowledge of the hive mind with its eons of accumulated experience. The last documented sighting of the Swarmlord occurred when Hive Fleet Leviathan descended upon the Blood Angels' homeworld of Baal, where it spearheaded the assault, eviscerating any of the Space Marine warriors that sought to challenge it.
I gotta learn more
it did
about
so
Baal.
with its 4 massive bone swords that crackled with disruptive power, living weapons said to be sharper than Imperial monoblades that could slice apart adamantium and even force fields as if they were made of nothing. It was Commander Dante himself that would eventually defeat the Swarmlord in one-on-one combat. Some hopeful people believe this was the end of the Swarmlord.
That must have been an awesome
the more cynical
battle.
out there believe that it is only a matter of time before the creature emerges once more, this time with all of the knowledge it gained upon Baal. Such a Swarmlord would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a master amongst masters, a god of gods, an apex Swarmlord.
I gotta find a Devastation of Baal video.
That such a rebirth will never come to pass.
Swarmlord versus Dante.
And that was the 5 Tyranid named characters explained.
That would be cool.
Which one was your favorite? Which one did you find the most disturbing? Are there any other Tyranid organisms you'd love to hear me talk about? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, go ahead.
Okay, so there we go. There's the top 5 unique Tyranids. That was very interesting. I didn't know that about the Swarmlord. I thought Swarmlord was just another, just a variant of just a hive tyrant. You know, you can take a hive tyrant or you can take a Swarmlord. You know, I didn't know a Swarmlord was something else entirely. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I gotta find a Devastation of Baal video because I wanna hear about how that battle went down with Dante versus the Swarmlord. How insane of a fight that must have been. I can just only imagine. I mean, 4 bone swords. Man, that's got to be insane. And then we had the Parasite of Mortrix. That was a very interesting character, if you want to call it that. Yeah, with his tail and stuff like that, that is messed up. Just injecting with Ripper swarms that just rapidly grow and then just, ugh, man. But I mean, that's smart, you know. You can't get in. Send this thing down there. Injects a couple of guardsmen. Now you got, well, like you said, like thousands of Rippers now just loose on the walls. That's insane. The Red Terror was another interesting one. So was Old One Eye. That was very, very interesting. That was really the only one I knew. Kind of get a little bit of Scarbrand in there, you know, with the Scarbrand like missing face and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess that's like all hearsay and stories and stuff like that. But it's just very interesting that why that one plasma shot can't heal itself when everything else can. And then the Death Leaper, that was pretty scary. I mean, just imagine trying to going after this one person and then just taking out everybody around him, no matter how many walls and people and defenders there were. Didn't do anything at all to stop it. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, Tyranids are very interesting. I like hearing about the Tyranids, not gonna lie, you know. But yeah, so there we go. So there is top 5 unique Tyranids explained. Which one did you like the most? Let me know. So anyways, on that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links in the description box below. And of course, leave me all your thoughts and comments. And if you have any videos you want me to check out, leave it in the comment section below, or join me over on Discord. And you can post it over there, and I'll be happy to do a video on it. Alright, so anyways, other than that, just stick around. More videos are on the way. And I will see you guys next time.